Elias rolls up his half-drawn map and tosses it onto the workbench. The paper skids across the uneven wood and hits a stack of blank sheets, sending 3 fluttering to the floor. He kicks the leg of the table hard enough to rattle his glass ink bottles, one clinking against the next until a thin bead of black ink bleeds over the edge onto the scarred wood. "Another wasted trip," he mutters to the empty shop. This rain came out of nowhere. Bad luck again. He has dreamed of being a celebrated explorer and cartographer since he was a boy. Every journey ends the same way. He blames muddy roads that turned his wagon wheels. He blames uncooperative guides who turned back halfway. He blames sudden storms that swept away his markers, and faulty tools that gave him false readings. He never blames his own poor preparation, the shortcuts he took to save time, or the rushed planning that cut corners on weather checks. He never adjusts his methods after a failure. He never rechecks his gear, never changes his route, never learns to read the sky before he sets off. He only adds another line to his list of complaints, the crumpled paper tucked in the back of his desk that grows longer with every failed trip. He crosses to the desk, pulls out the list, and adds 3 new words under the last entry. Sudden rain. Again. He folds it back up, shoves it into the drawer. He folds it back up, shoves it into the drawer, and slams the wood shut hard enough to shake the frame. 3 weeks later, a sharp rap sounds on the front door of Elias's shop. The door swings open before he can cross the room, and a well-dressed messenger steps in, shaking rain off his boots. He carries a sealed letter stamped with the crest of the region's wealthiest merchant. Elias breaks the seal and reads the words twice to make sure he's not dreaming. The merchant is offering a huge prize to the first person who produces an accurate map of the remote, uncharted Northern Valley. No one has ever mapped it fully. Expeditions have turned back for 100 years. The prize is enough to buy Elias a new shop, new gear, and a year of paid travel without worrying about rent. This is exactly the chance he has waited for his whole life. The challenge will make his name if he succeeds. It will prove to everyone that he was always meant for greatness. He sends the messenger back with his answer within 10 minutes. He signs up immediately. No questions asked, no terms negotiated. For the next 3 days, he sorts through his gear, replaces the broken straps on his pack, and sharpens his measuring tools. He tells every customer who stops by that this trip will be the one. He posts a handwritten note on his shop door. Gone to chart the Northern Valley. Back with the map that makes history. He packs his gear at dawn on the 3rd day, locks the door behind him, and sets off up the mountain pass. For the first 2 days, the trail stays clear. The sky stays a sharp, bright blue. No rain, no mud, no uncooperative guides. Elias starts to think his luck has finally turned. Elias eats a cold breakfast on the 3rd morning, watching the peaks. He doesn't notice the wall of gray cloud rolling over the highest ridges until it blocks half the blue sky. He pauses, hand halfway to his water skin, and squints up. A gust of cold wind tugs at the edge of his pack, sharp enough to make his fingers prickle. He thinks about turning back, waiting the storm out in the last village he passed. But the valley is only 1 day's walk ahead. He's already come this far. His luck held for 2 days. It will hold for a few more. He slings his pack back over his shoulders and keeps moving up the trail. The wind picks up faster than he can walk. By mid-morning, it's howling through the pines, bending branches until they crack against the rock. By midday, snow starts to fall, fine and stinging, driven right into his face. Visibility drops to 10 feet. Snow piles up against his boots, heavy and cold, weighing down each step he takes. He pulls his compass from the inner pocket of his coat, brushing snow off the glass to read the needle. The needle spins wildly, round and round, never settling on north. The storm's magnetic interference has knocked it out. He shakes the compass, taps the glass with his thumb, blows snow off the casing. It keeps spinning. He tries to retrace his steps back to the last marker he left on the trail. But the snow has covered every cairn, every blazed tree, every notch in the rock. He veers left, trying to find the main path again, and stumbles over a loose rock. He catches himself on a pine trunk, but he's already off the marked trail. He stumbles deeper into the rocky high ground, snow blinding his eyes, wind screaming in his ears. with no way to tell which direction leads down. His boots slip on a patch of hidden ice every third step. His fingers are numb through his gloves, stiff and useless when he tries to brush snow from his eyelashes. He can barely draw breath against the wind, each inhalation full of stinging ice crystals that burn his throat. He keeps one hand against the rock face to his right, stepping slowly, trying to feel for a downward slope that will lead him back to lower ground. He lifts his right foot to step over a jutting rock, and his toe catches something hard and half buried under the snow. A hidden root. He lurches forward, loses his balance, and goes tumbling head over heels down a shallow slope. He hits a small boulder with his shoulder halfway down, and a sharp pain shoots up his arm. He stops rolling at the bottom, face down in a drift, and lies there for a minute, too winded to move. When he pushes himself up, he sees his map case has torn open on the rock. Half his blank survey paper blew out during the fall, and it's already vanished into the white storm. He pushes himself to his feet, shoulder throbbing, lungs burning, and huddles against the boulder for an hour, too cold and angry to move. He screams at the empty mountain, asking why the world keeps breaking him. When he finally forces himself to stand, his legs are so numb he can barely feel them. He stumbles forward one step at a time, letting gravity pull him down, when he catches a flash of something solid through the blowing snow. Not rock. Wood. It's a small cabin, tucked tight into a crack between two granite boulders, almost invisible from 10 feet away. He fumbles with the iron latch, his stiff fingers slipping twice before he works it open. He shoves the door open and falls forward, through the frame, into warm, smoky air that hits his cold face like a blanket. An old woman named Mara looks up from stirring a pot over the fire. She doesn't jump. She doesn't look surprised. She just pulls a rough wooden bench closer to the flames and reaches for a chipped ceramic bowl. Elias eats the hot soup so fast he burns his tongue and lets his numb hands hover over the fire for a full hour until the tingling comes back. The wind dies down just enough to cut through the howl outside. Mara grabs her wooden staff from the corner by the door and leans it against her shoulder. "The storm will pick up again before nightfall," she says. "I'll walk you down to the valley floor. This way is safe." Elias grabs his pack and follows her out the door, back into the stinging snow. The path she takes is cut straight into the side of a steep cliff, no more than 3 feet wide. Ice coats every exposed rock, thick and glassy. Thick fog wraps around them, so dense Elias can barely see 10 steps ahead of his own boots. Every time his boot shifts on the ice, a loose stone clatters down into the void below. The sound fades and fades until Elias can't hear it hit the bottom. He freezes every single time. He grabs onto the thin trunk of a pine sapling, fingers locked around the bark, and refuses to move for 5 full minutes. A sharp gust of wind hits him square in the shoulders, and his heart hammers so hard he can hear it over the wind. He thinks he's going to lose his balance and go right over the edge. He watches Mara walk ahead of him, step by slow, deliberate step. She taps the ground in front of her with her staff before she puts any weight down. She counts each step under her breath, quiet and steady. She never hesitates. She never stops to clutch at a tree. When a gust of wind hits her, she just shifts her weight onto her back foot, adjusts her balance, and keeps going. Elias has all his sight, and he can barely move one foot after another. Mara moves with a calm, unshakable certainty he can't begin to match. He forces himself to let go of the sapling, one finger at a time, and takes another shaky step forward, keeping his eyes fixed on the back of her outline through the fog. 30 minutes later, the fog thins just enough for Elias to see the ground flatten out under his boots. He steps off the narrow cliff path onto the soft, deep snow of the valley floor, and his legs give out immediately. He sinks to his knees, hands braced on the snow, and gasps for air that won't fill his lungs. He stays that way for a full minute until his pulse slows enough to let him think straight. He pushes himself back up to his feet, brushes snow from his knees, and lifts his head to thank Mara for getting him down alive. The fog is pulled back just enough that he can see her face clearly instead of just a shadowy outline through the white. He opens his mouth to speak, and the words die in his throat. Her eyes don't focus on him. They don't focus on anything. A milky white film covers both pupils, thick and opaque, no trace of movement or recognition. He blinks, once, hard, thinking the fog is playing tricks on his vision. He steps closer, and the detail doesn't change. The cloudiness stays. Mara just stands there, leaning on her staff, waiting for him to collect himself, with that same quiet, calm smile on her face. Elias freezes. His blood turns cold in his veins, all the warmth from the soup and the fire leaching out of him in a second. "You're blind," he says. The words come out rough, disbelieving, almost a whisper. Mara doesn't look away. She just keeps smiling, like she's been waiting for him to notice. "I lost my sight 15 years ago, when a blizzard caught me up here just like it caught you." Elias's brain can't process what he's seeing. He stumbles back a step, boots sinking into the snow. "But how did you lead me down that cliff?" he asks. "You can't see. I could see, and I almost fell 3 times. Mara leans on her staff and shifts her weight in the snow, still smiling like she hears this question every day. She tells him what happened after the blizzard took her sight. No one came to rescue her. The cabin was already here, stocked with salted meat and flour from a summer supply drop she dropped off before the storm hit. She had 2 choices laid out in front of her, clear as the snow under their feet. She could sit by the cabin door and wait. She could blame the snow, blame the blizzard, blame the bad luck that took her sight, and let the cold take her when the food ran out. Or she could learn to live without her sight. She chose the second. Every day, she walked a little further along the paths around the cabin. She started with just 10 steps from the door, then 20, then 100. She memorized every loose rock, every gnarled root, every dip and rise in the ground, one at a time. She learned to tell the direction of the wind by the way it brushed her cheeks. She learned to hear the difference between a solid stone and a loose one by the sound it made when she tapped it with her staff. She trained her legs to hold her balance on ice, one slow step at a time, until it felt as natural as breathing. Elias doesn't say a single word on the walk back to the village edge. Mara's words loop over and over in his head, bouncing off every memory of every failed trip, every broken tool, every sudden storm he blamed for his failures. He'd sat behind cold rocks, screaming at the mountain, blaming the world for every bad thing that had happened to him. He'd spent years adding lines to a list of excuses, instead of adding steps to his practice. When he unlocks the door of his shop, the smell of old paper and dried ink hits him, the same smell he's walked into every night for a decade. He crosses straight to the workbench by the front window and stares down at the pile of torn, half-finished maps that have sat there gathering dust for years. On top of the pile, right under a half-carved wooden ruler, he finds the list, the long, crumpled list he's kept for years. Every line a new complaint, every line a new excuse for why he hadn't succeeded yet. He picks it up between his thumb and forefinger, holds it for a long second, thinking of Mara sitting by her fire, walking her paths, learning every step, one at a time. He crumples the list into a tight ball, crosses to the small fireplace in the corner of the shop, and tosses it into the burning logs. He watches the paper curl black, catch flame, and turn to ash. That's when the change starts. When his old maps are inaccurate, he doesn't blame faulty survey tools. He walks back over every mile of the trail and remeasures every landmark, one at a time. When weather forecasts call for rain or snow, he doesn't sit and complain about bad luck. He buys extra waterproof paper, thicker soles for his boots, and a stronger tent that can hold against wind. When he sees other explorers with better skills or more fame, he doesn't mutter about unfair advantage. He gets up an hour earlier every morning to practice navigation and climb the local hills behind the village. Small, consistent work replaces his endless complaining. 10 years pass, one small step at a time. Elias's maps become the most trusted in the entire region. Every explorer heading into the northern mountains tucks one of his folded sheets into their pack before they start their climb. They say his maps never lead them wrong. Every contour line is measured. Every trail is marked. Every dangerous crevice is noted clearly. No guesswork. No rushed estimates. Young, aspiring cartographers and explorers crowd into his shop every month, asking for his secret to success. They expect a story of a lucky breakthrough, or a rare natural gift, or a trick of navigation that only he knows. Elias never gives them that. He leans against the doorframe of his shop, nods toward the snow-capped peaks that line the northern horizon, and tells them the story he carries with him every day. He tells them about the blizzard, about the cliff path, about the blind woman who led him down step by step when he could barely move. He repeats her words, exactly as he heard them that day on the snow-covered valley floor. Obstacles are real, he tells them, just like Mara told him. Bad things do happen. Storms come, compasses break, paths get lost in the white. But excuses are always a choice. You can spend all your time blaming the things that went wrong, all the bad luck